Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Florida Aviation Network. My name is Lori Bradner, and we are broadcasting live and in the clear at the 51st Sun and Fun, where we are definitely turning up the fun. And we are broadcasting from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, where we have our studios. So excited to be here. And Colonel Dahlke, again, just my honored guest. I get to talk to you again. Got to talk to you last year.
Yep.
And I want to jump right in because I know you've got a plethora of information to share. We could talk all afternoon, and you're talking about a subject near and dear to my heart. So let's start off. If my viewers missed it last year, if our viewers missed it last year, tell us a little bit about your story. Where did you start? Where did you come from? How did you get in the flight suit? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, it's a long story. I'll do the abbreviated version of it. But as we discussed last time, I clearly remember getting interested in the space program in the summer between 2nd and 3rd grade.
That's amazing.
And I witnessed Walter Cronkite reporting on some of the early space missions. It was actually the Gemini 4 mission that was flying in June of 1965.
Yep.
And distinctly remember that. And from that point on, it was like I was enthralled with all things space flight, especially human space flight.
Yes.
Putting a human being in the equation always gets everybody else's attention, I think, and it certainly got my attention at the time. And I followed the space program from that point on.
Absolutely. Well, I know that. What have you been doing here? We were talking. I don't think you've slept since you come to Sun and Fun because you've been very busy. Tell us a little bit about the forums that you've been doing here.
Okay, I had 3 topics that I proposed and were accepted for the educational forums here at Sun and Fun. One of them was recounting the flights of the X-15 that actually went into outer space. There were 199 X-15 flights.
Okay.
I think 12 of which went into outer space.
Okay.
And that was a significant achievement because the X-15 had that capability, and that was one of the things they wanted to do when the program was developed, is to see how high it can go and push it to what then was the edge of space. And then they decided, okay, we looked like we have the capability, we could actually go into space. So they gave it a little bit more power, got everything to come together, and the X-15 actually achieved space flight.
That's
so
awesome.
all the pilots that flew X-15 flights that went into outer space then qualified and were recognized as astronauts.
That's right.
So that was an important distinction.
Right.
And a number of them were active duty Air Force members. And once they achieved that, they wore, let's see, which is this side? Those wings had the astronaut emblem encased on them.
Right.
And that gave them the distinction that they were bona fide astronauts.
Excellent. And then what were the other forums you did? So you did that
So
one?
did X-15. I did NASA in-flight emergencies, and that's an interesting topic because you can wonder what that could be.
Right.
There were a number of aircraft in-flight emergencies. There were in-flight emergencies on a number of space missions. Neil Armstrong, let's see, what was he came close to losing his life at least 3 times. He had crashes in a training device that was developed to simulate a lunar landing in Earth's environment. So you had to build a contraption, and you look at a picture of one of those, and it's a contraption of sorts that simulates lunar gravity and the lunar environment, which is a vacuum.
Right.
So if you're flying in Earth's atmosphere, you've got crosswinds that you have to deal with. This machine was designed to eliminate the effects of crosswinds. You'd have crosswind blowing on this device, and it would have instrumentation and rockets in it that would counter the effect of the wind trying to blow in one direction. It would counter that so as if there was no wind blowing at all. All of these were important to train the astronauts in an environment that simulated what they were going to see when they were on the moon.
Right.
So the astronauts felt it was a very valuable training tool, but on one flight that Neil Armstrong was doing, it ran out of the propellant that stabilizes it in Earth's atmosphere because the winds were high that particular day, and this system was expending a lot of propellant to compensate for the wind. It ran out of propellant. It went out of control. Neil Armstrong came within 1.2 seconds of losing his life. He ejected 1.2 seconds before it was the last chance to eject and save his life. Google that on the internet. The imagery and the video of that is astonishing.
Yeah.
And you see this parachute pop out, and there's the first man to walk on the moon coming down on this parachute after that very heroic event.
Wow. And then what was the third? You said there was three.
Okay, and then the launch rate at Kennedy Space Center is skyrocketing. It's really increasing like crazy. Right, and this is due in no small part to SpaceX. If you look at the launch manifest, the majority are Falcon 9 rockets, and they're launching 1 and 2 and sometimes 3 times a week.
Right.
And that's pushing the launch rate higher and higher. Last year, the Cape and Kennedy Space Center combined, they're 2 separate installations that are adjoin each other. The Space Force operates Cape Canaveral. NASA operates Kennedy Space Center. So between the two of them, when you add up the total, you're combining the launches off of Kennedy and the launches off of Cape Canaveral. And the majority of those are SpaceX launches.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know that was something that you wanted to talk. What is coming up for those space enthusiasts? Because there's always something going on over there. I know that from my own students because of what I teach. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's coming up so our space enthusiasts?
Yes, and I'm one of myself. I just had the benefit of working virtually my entire career in the space and missile business. And I worked the shuttle program for 18 years.
Yes.
I worked numerous programs before the shuttle. I worked on Air Force intercontinental ballistic missiles on active duty in the Air Force. So I've had my share of it. And right out of high school, I went into the Air Force and have turned that into one job after another and turned it into a career.
A career.
So it's been interesting, and so I became a space geek probably in the 3rd grade, and have followed it all through my life. So anytime a rocket goes off, I'm interested in seeing it.
I know we can see it from our backyard.
Oh yeah.
So the whole family is out.
Where's your
watching.
home located?
Actually, I'm in Tampa.
And you can see them from Tampa.
So
you can see them from Miami. If the rocket goes south, you can see it from Miami easily.
It's fabulous.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
Yes.
So what's coming up? Can you tell us a little bit about
So
some
right
of the
now
activities?
I'm debating whether I need to make the pilgrimage to Boca Chica, Texas, which is where Starship, the SpaceX Starship, is being launched.
Yes.
And they've had a number of test flights with moderate degrees of success.
Right.
Some were catastrophic failures. Others have progressed to more and more reliable flights. They're having a little bit of a problem with the upper stage, which is called the Starship, and the booster is called the Falcon Super Heavy. Right. And they have really got the Falcon Super Heavy down pretty decent, where they can launch it and then fly it back to the launch pad. And those of you who have watched these on TV, you see what we call the chopsticks.
Yes.
The rocket comes down, hovers in place, the chopsticks come around it, the rocket engine shuts off, and the chopsticks just lower it down onto the launch pad. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
No, I know.
I knew SpaceX was planning to do that, and I'm one of those, I'll believe it when I see it, and I've seen it many times now, and it is the coolest thing you can imagine.
Absolutely.
That rocket and system is going to be coming to the Kennedy Space Center. Okay. So SpaceX is in the process of building one pad. They're looking at building a second launch pad to accommodate the Starship rocket system. And the one that's almost ready, being very close to being finished, is on the same site that Apollo 11 launched in 1969. So very historic launch pad, and now I'm sure many historic flights are to come as a result of this.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And if you like big rockets that make a lot of noise and shake the ground, that rocket is the epitome.
Well, it's it's the largest.
Yes, it's absolutely. It will, with hands down, it will be, when it's perfected, it will be the most powerful operational rocket in the history of spaceflight.
That's exactly right. And so
that is something to see.
You know, you're not only going to see it, you're going to hear it,
and you're going to feel it.
Feel it. Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of taking classes and taking schools for those launches, and that was when that was during the shuttle
era.
And even during the shuttle era, when you were waiting, you could still, the power, you could feel it.
I've seen dozens of shuttle flights from 3 miles away, And that in itself is like you're in an earthquake. It absolutely isn't like an
there's
earthquake.
nothing like it.
Right. And the interesting thing on a shuttle launch is that when it launches, you don't hear a thing for 15 seconds.
Right.
And then the sound finally hits you, and it's like it's slamming you in the chest, and your chest is pounding, the ground is shaking, and you can't hear the person next to you talking because the noise is so loud. It is a very exhilarating
and you
event.
know, it's one thing it's true. It's one thing when you stand in your backyard and you see the light and you see it, and it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, and I'm that person with the camera trying to capture every glimpse I possibly can. It's another thing when you're there.
When you're right close by it.
I would absolutely say it should be on everybody's bucket list at least once, especially those of us here in Florida, because it's right in our backyard.
Right. And the bonus of that is that there are tours that you can take of Kennedy Space Center, and the bus will take you out to a site that is the closest that most anybody can get to a rocket launch that's going off of Kennedy Space Center.
Right.
So just by buying a ticket, taking the tour, and being there at the Saturn V exhibit at the time the rocket goes off gives you a double bonus. You're seeing the rocket that took us to the moon, and then you're seeing a real rocket going off at just a few miles distance. It's quite an experience.
That's amazing. One of the things I know that you had mentioned, and this is something that we teach in the summer. I work with Janet Ivey of Janet's Planet. We talk a lot about the Artemis mission and the Artemis program, and I would love for you to share your expertise and your view of the Artemis lunar exploration program.
And it is coming up.
Because it is happening.
Yes, we're closer now than we've ever been before. I like saying that.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Right.
It's amazing.
Sure. Artemis 2 will fly sometime next year. Artemis 2 will be a mission that will send an astronaut crew from Earth to loop around the moon and come back. Right. It essentially would replicate the mission of Apollo 8. Okay. Although Apollo 8 did go into orbit around the moon for 10 orbits, I believe, is what they did, and then they came back. This mission will just loop around the moon. It will literally make a figure 8. It will go out of Earth orbit, around the moon, make a figure 8, come back, and that will be completing that mission. If that's done successfully, the very next mission after that will be a lunar landing mission for Artemis. Wow. And what I've just described to you about Starship is going to play an integral part of that, because the human landing system will be the Starship. The current plan is a Starship will land astronauts on the surface of the moon on the Artemis 3 mission. So that's going to be exciting. And you look at the artist's depiction now, you see this giant rocket that was literally designed to carry 200 people will be landing 2 people on the surface of the moon. So, and they look like little tiny ants at the bottom of that. You know, you look at the pictures of the Apollo missions, and you see the lunar lander, and the astronauts are like about a third the size of the lunar module. On this, they're little tiny dots at the bottom, and this thing is standing this tall, and that's the thing that's going to get them onto the moon. That's the current plan. So if Starship is perfected and they get that operational, that's what NASA is planning to use to get the next 2 astronauts.
They will. I mean, we've
absolutely
seen it.
Right.
They've
right. So the issue now is the timeline, because SpaceX is having some challenges in getting the Starship to do everything it needs to do. Okay. And NASA is not going to send astronauts to the moon while they're still ironing out the problems in Starship. So once that's perfected, then once that happens, then NASA will mandate that they fly at least 1 unmanned mission in Starship to demonstrate they can do it before they send an astronaut crew to do it. But that's the step-by-step process. But we're going to get there. We're absolutely going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. And the timeline is 2 years?
Okay, so our Artemis 2 will go before the end of next year. And if that goes well, then the following year, or maybe into 2025, 2026. If I were to guess, early 2028 or sometime in 2028.
Okay. No, that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be it's the new space program all over again. It's like we're going to the moon for the first time, because the memory of Apollo 11 is in the minds of so few people having experienced it. I'm one of those who watched Apollo 11 land.
Yes.
But there are generations that all they can do is read books and look at video of it. And now the whole Earth, the whole planet is
in the classroom.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But
now we're going to relive this. The excitement of putting humans on the surface of the moon is going to be able to be lived by everybody on the planet.
Absolutely.
With greater high definition imagery than we ever had on Apollo during the Apollo program.
Be able to see
You're going to get high def 1080p imagery, and it's going to be so cool.
Not the fuzzy images we have when we're looking to see.
Exactly. It's going to be so cool. I just can't wait to see it.
That's awesome. Well, of course we can't. I have to, because Civil Air Patrol is near and dear to my heart.
And
so
mine too.
I want to switch
Yeah,
gears
sure.
and talk a little bit about Civil Air Patrol, some of the National Cadet activities,
Yes.
some of the things that Civil Air Patrol, because I know they're a huge presence
Yes.
here at Sun and Fun,
Right.
and you are the man to talk to about that.
Well, thank
so
you.
I know that's not a very smooth segue, but let's talk about it.
Well, I'm here in the capacity as a member of Civil Air Patrol. I've been here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Every day I've been representing CAP in what we call CAP for
Right,
short. CAP
right.
is CAP for their External Aerospace Education Program. And external aerospace education means we reach out to the public. So there's internal aerospace education where we educate members of Civil Air Patrol. That's
Right.
internal to
Right.
CAP. External is where we reach out to the public.
Right.
And so I'm doing public outreach these 3 days, Wednesdays, Thursday, and Friday at Sun and Fun to educate the public on aerospace education. And those 3 topics are right in line
Right.
with CAP's mission of external aerospace education.
Absolutely. Now, I know that there are cadets here.
There are cadets
and,
supporting
Tell
us.
me a little bit more about, and we want to, I know that Civil Air Patrol, we've got composite units, so anyone that it's open, if you have an interest, people can join. Can you talk a little
Yes.
bit about that for our viewers? Because I absolutely, of course, Major Bartuska is a key
Yes.
member. He and I were founders here at C8, and I know it's no longer here, but this is where we had the unit.
Right.
And so both of us have been involved. Many of our staff members here at FAN are involved with Civil Air Patrol. Can you talk a little bit about how people can get involved? Students can get involved, not only from a student perspective, but also
Yes.
adults can get involved as well.
Right. So there are two groups that you could call of individuals. The adult groups are called senior members, and they have a function of conducting air search and rescue. They have a function of doing external aerospace education, like what I'm doing here today. And then you have the cadet program, which are junior high school age cadets. You can actually maintain your cadet status up until age 21, as long as you stay within the cadet program. But at 21, you call age out.
Age out.
You
You have
age
to
out of the
become
program,
yes.
and then if you want to stay in, you have to become a senior member.
Right.
But if you're 12 years old and you're interested in aviation, space, aerospace, or the military in general, because we in CAP, our cadets follow a lot of the U.S. Air Force
Yes.
Program of training.
It's the civilian
right.
unit of the U.S. Air Force,
If you
is it not?
if you go through CAP as a cadet and you join the Air Force, whether you go to the academy or you go directly into the Air Force
Right.
after you graduate, you're going to have a step up on everybody else in your unit with that experience that you've. You're going to know how to march. You're going to know military customs and courtesies. You're going to know what's expected of you during the time that you're in your training. So that's a huge advantage for anyone who's even thinking about going into any branch of the military, as Air Force especially, because it's based on the Air Force's model of training. But if you have that training, any branch of the military that you would go into, that would be a benefit to you.
Excellent. And what is the criteria for the adult, for the senior, for anyone that might be listening that would want to join?
Okay, well, you're expected to be active in
Right.
Civil Air Patrol. So you're asked to make a commitment of your time, and then you need to pick what we call a specialty track. There are all kinds of jobs that you can have in Civil Air Patrol, and you need to decide, well, what area of Civil Air Patrol do I want to be involved in?
Okay.
And the first one I joined in with was aerospace education.
Right.
And then I also went into cadet programs so that I could work with cadets. And I was also in a leadership position in my unit. I was a squadron commander for a number of years as well. So there are many aspects of Civil Air Patrol. And the third element is air search and rescue.
Okay.
So
Yes.
those are the main components, and the adults are heavily involved in air search and rescue because you have to have a pilot in an aircraft that will now conduct a rescue mission to find a downed aircraft.
Right.
And we have a bona fide Air Force assignment. We are actually a component of the Air Force.
It's
We're
the
all
civilian
unpaid.
unit, is it? Yes.
We're all civilians.
Right.
But actually, you can actually be an active duty member and join CAP. That's a kind of a different category, but you can actually be in the Air Force and join Civil Air
Okay, I
Patrol.
learned something new.
Nothing would prevent you from doing that.
From doing that. Okay.
But the large proportion of our membership are civilians. Many of us are former military, but you could have no experience in the military or any experience experience, you could have an interest in joining CAP, and they'll give you the training to get you up to speed for whatever job assignment you have chosen to do.
Now, CAP, again, for our teachers out there, still has a huge educational component for any science teacher, any teacher that is looking for materials.
Yes, indeed.
There is none better than CAP.
Well, and coming from a teacher,
yes,
right,
and I
you
want
can
to
attest.
give you an opportunity to
Yes.
just say just a brief snippet
Yes.
about that.
So there's a huge resource that CAP provides to teachers
Yes.
that revolve around what we call STEM. You know,
Right.
science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That are these STEM projects can include an actual a working model of something or an actual physical project that you can put your hands on,
Right.
and a wealth of written material also that lets the teacher develop curriculum and incorporate that into their curriculum
It's
at the same time. So you've got real things that you can put your hands on
Right.
that you can order from CAP and use these as a teaching tool,
Right.
and then a wealth of written information that can also complement any of the STEM kits that we have. It's called a STEM kit, and the
Right.
kit is the physical thing that you get sent from Civil Air Patrol that you can use in the classroom.
And where do teachers go to find that?
cap.gov, I
.gov.
think.
Go on Civil Air
Okay.
Patrol, Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah, I got
website.
it bookmarked, so I don't
That's
pay
all right.
attention to the
That's okay.
website.
No, no,
but
no.
just Google Civil Air Patrol
Absolutely.
Aerospace Education, and that'll get you right to the spot.
Absolutely. Colonel Dahlke, unfortunately, we've got to wrap up as
Oh,
always.
it always
You
goes
are a
really
joy.
fast,
does.
doesn't it? Yes.
You are a joy.
But I enjoyed it very
and
much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
My
Lori.
name is Lori Bradner. I'm with the Florida Aviation Network. We are broadcasting live and in the clear from the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, where we are celebrating 51 years of sun and fun, where we're turning up the fun. We look forward to seeing you there.